Hey, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. Today we are talking about something that every speaker is thinking about. How do I get on bigger stages, higher stakes stages? And how do I earn higher fees? And the amazing Sarah McVanel is here to talk us through it once again. Welcome back to the show, Sarah. I'm so happy to have you back.
Oh, thank you, Jane. And I credit the beginning of my career to you. So anytime you want me to share what I've learned since you started mentoring me, I'm all in.
Thank you so much. Now, before we got on, we were talking about kind of where things are sitting for you. I'm so excited to hear you're kind of at the top end of the pay scale here in Canada. Congratulations on that. I think that is something that, standing tall in your fees is such an important piece of the puzzle here. And I'm so excited that you have grasped that.
Thank you. And it's so much of what you teach is standing tall in your value. And part of that is our team. So my speaker manager and I help to educate our clients about the investment they're making. I mean, here's a little tip for everyone. One of the things she shares with folks is, so you can have a speaker who's very new and who isn't really even a speaker yet, who's maybe $2,000, $2,500, and a really high-end speaker that you may have to get from the US, about 20,000. We fall in the middle of that range. So you're in good hands. So she actually positions at the concept of the investment and also helps people to realize that you've got a lot of choices. The conversation we're having is in that middle range, and the investment. It's the investment. Have I said the word investment?
Well, it really is for them. And as we talk about high stakes meetings or getting on bigger stages, one of the paths to getting there is the idea of preparation. Now, before we dive into that, tell everybody about your existing business. I mean, you clearly are doing something right. So tell everybody a little bit about what you specialize in and the types of companies you're speaking for today.
Yeah. So I'm Canada's recognition expert. There was nobody saying at the beginning of my speaking career, where are all the recognition experts? In fact, a lot of people said, I don't think you should probably specialize in that. However, my whole professional career before getting to be a speaker, all roads led to that. So, you encourage your speakers to know what is the unique value they bring. So that's what I do. And I speak for associations. I mean, I could tell you some of my favorite groups to speak for are childcare, healthcare, and hospitality. And by the way, anyone who thinks that if you speak for certain groups, you're going to have a different fee. They invest what they invest. And then it's up to you if you want to shift your fees accordingly. However, the path of speaking has been about knowing the value and the expertise you bring. And that's the category of one piece that we hear all the time from you. And when you talk about Joe Calloway's work, and then it's also knowing what is happening, what's relevant right now, so that when your clients come to you and they say, I have this issue, I have that problem, we're really struggling with this, you can help put the pieces together to help them understand how your solution is a natural or perhaps easy or perhaps a different way of approaching that really big sticky issue that's probably been there for a while.
Yeah. And one of the things I want to reinforce is that you're not really selling recognition. Recognition is the how. You're selling the outcomes of recognition. What does that look like? Attract great people, keep great people, have more engagement, more connection, more of an enthusiastic culture at work. What else?
Yeah. It could be resiliency, mental health and loneliness. It's how do you stay connected in a virtual hybrid environment? It's how do you make sure leaders who feel overwhelmed and busy, that they know that they can still be great leaders? We could talk about a dozen more reasons why people have picked up the phone and called us. But I'll tell you, some of the most fascinating requests we've been getting lately is emceeing appreciation events, doing staff the first ever time that everybody's been back together, and make it a really big splash. They've never had a speaker before, but they really want this first time back together for people to feel deeply connected. So your area of expertise will naturally lead to places that maybe clients aren't even purchasing and investing in a speaker in that area, but it's just such a natural fit that it's kind of like, yes, why haven't we been doing that all along?
Yeah. And so when they tell you what their problems are, that's what you're solving. That's what you're selling. And recognition happens to be the path. It happens to be the how to getting there. So remember, what is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that you're selling? And your process for getting there isn't necessarily the thing that may be out front in your marketing. So we have the lay of the land on kind of what it is you're doing right now. Let's talk a little bit about preparation, which is the how for what we're talking about today, how to get to higher fees, how to get on bigger stages, how to get more high stakes events. What do you mean by preparation?
Well, there's two forms. There's small P preparation, which is the preparation you do in your business with your team, whether that be contractors, full-time folks. You have to be prepared and have common systems that are replicable and reliable so that you can do a good job and everyone knows their role. So I know you have lots of experts who get into that. We won't get into that right now, but I'll just tell you, we take preparation as a team really seriously. The big P preparation that I think is specifically how do we earn the right to be on those bigger stages, earn the right to have the investment that people make in us, is making sure that we customize our message. And we talk a lot about customizing. We throw that around like it sounds like vanilla, right? And that's not what I mean. What I mean is, don't limit yourself that, oh, you only speak for this area, this audience, because you know it well. If your message, because it is so valuable that you need that in this sector and in that industry and with that higher level group who can make the decisions, do not limit your own exposure and expertise and experience to keep your business and your stages small. Do what you need to do to earn the right to be on those stages. So, recently, just this past summer, I had the privilege of speaking for a trades-based organization, or a union hired me, but there were contractors, business owners in the room, former tradespeople who were now in a union role. Well, I literally do not have a single person, Jane, in my family who's ever worked in the trades. I have no expertise, zilch. My husband does even our faucet repairs. Like, I've never even had to hire somebody. So I asked the client, so how, they knew that recognition was the solution. They knew they had a big problem and that they saw the connection. However, there was no way I was going to know which stories would fit, which content to emphasize, and also to add in uniqueness about them if I didn't even know what a boiler looked like, let alone what it was like a day in the life of a Boilermaker or leader. So when I asked them, how can I do my best job preparing? They told me they all know. Every client may have a different suggestion. And what they said is, we need to have dinner. Now, I have to say, I didn't, the idea of traipsing all over Ontario having dinners, that seemed like a lot.
Yes.
However, what I realized once I got to that very first meeting, and it was probably by hour 3, and no joke, we had a 3.5-hour meeting over steak and salmon. I had the salmon, they had the steak. I learned so much about the needs and the hopes and the fears. I knew every one of the wonderful, really interesting people that I had dinner with, everything from their very first day on the job to how they're feeling when they put their head on the pillow. You cannot replicate that level of connection. So first of all, you have raving fans in the audience already, because you've already done more than any other speaker has ever done before. but you also hear these little tiny fascinating nuggets. They have little expressions that they use, and you know, your ears perk up because you think, wow, I've never heard that before. And when you plant those in your session, your preparation shines through, but it doesn't shine through as preparation. It shines through as connection. And what it said, what this perhaps subliminal thing that people say is, wow, she gets us.
It
Wow.
felt like you were one of us is a huge compliment that you can get. Now, it's often asked that you have dinner with the client the night before. That's not what we're
Yes.
talking about. This meeting planner this meeting professional knew exactly the best way for you to get your research done. It wasn't going to be on Zoom meetings. It was going to be in a face-to-face dinner, and a series of them. And you did it. You said yes to that, and that paid off in spades. And now there's a new market and new people.
And I feel that I can take all of that learning, all that deep dive preparation, and now use it for other trades-based sectors, associations, and you know, there's a few clients that have reached out since then. When I asked people afterwards, so what was most valuable? Consistently, it was the idea of sending recognition home to the family, send dinner home when somebody's working overtime. Everyone, I've mentioned that before. Sometimes
good for trades. That is so good for trades, especially high stakes trades that are under major deadlines and they have to work a lot of overtime in order to meet the deadlines. That's really good stuff, Sarah. And no wonder they loved you. So congratulations on that. So we're talking preparation. Let's also talk about one of the things that I'll share at a master's level with clients is that if you want to really show them that you know who they are, do your homework, talk to some people, and make sure that you're making your audience the heroes of your stories. And you were able to do that because you knew some things. Talk about what kind of part of your normal process is for preparation.
Well, certainly as soon as we have some of the logistics, we're working those out. My speaker manager, she manages all of those pieces. She will right away say, okay, let's get a planning call in the calendar with Sarah. In other words, it's not just a transaction. You don't have to fill out this questionnaire and process this paperwork, that there's the high touch point with me. And that is where I learn, and our questionnaire is designed to also get at some of those areas. What combination of humor, motivation, storytelling, speed, or research, evidence, you know, we're also curating before we even have that planning call, so that I show up with having reviewed that with some preparation. So that's part of it, right? Is get the one-on-ones in the calendar. If they need more time, spend more time. I'm emceeing an awards event, and we've already had 2 planning calls. And there will be probably 3 more beforehand. And that's what the client needs. So they will know best what will set this up for success. They're not being needy.
As a little rabbit hole there, I just want to say that when you do take MC jobs, make sure you're factoring that into the price that you quote. There is going to be a ton of planning calls ahead of time, unless you've done this. And even if you have done it in years prior, you know, there's new committee members, there's new people, and there's going to be a ton of work on the front end leading into an MC job. So I say to our audience, make sure you're putting getting paid for your time. Okay, so we start by sending the questionnaire shortly after the agreement. So these are your systems that you have in place. Then we book the call. Then is there more research after that with other individuals?
Before that planning call, I've learned about the organization. I try to do a little bit of a deep dive, such as looking at what is going on. So if the organization or the industry are going through something really sticky. That's my background in public relations coming out there. I want to know before the client has to tell me. They probably don't want to be the one to have to tell you that the CEO was just in the news and fired. So try to do a little bit of that research. It doesn't have to be a ton. They don't want you to feel like you don't want it to feel overly intrusive, because you also want to show up. It's that balance of I'm prepared and I'm ready and I take this seriously but it's about you. You tell me what you think is most important.
Right.
The other piece is I'll work really hard as soon as I get on the call. I want to learn very early on. If we I double check who's in the audience, what would success look like for them by the end of it. And I'm immediately going, okay, do I have stories? Do I have contacts? Have I worked with this profession, these people before? Have I spoken for this audience? And I will filter it through my mental Rolodex. Those of you under 30, you can look up the word Rolodex. And I will see. And if my brain does not calculate that I have enough, cherry, in the slot machine brain there, I'm like, okay, then I need to ask for more time. So when I spoke for at the pre-conference with all the leaders at the $1 Million Roundtable, it's a very high stakes group, very high stakes, high pressure.
Congratulations on that, by the way. So
thank you. They're a group that deeply values speakers who do the preparation, and they expect it. It was a wonderful piece of tuition to see what a masterful planning experience that was, because they taught me a lot about preparation, and I've elevated my game. And what I learned very quickly from that is they have a global footprint, and that a lot of these people are a combination of volunteers and people with experience. So I said, great, I would love to speak with at least 8 people. Please make it global, diverse. I will find a translator if I need to. They were able to find English speaking, and new and less, newer and more experienced. In other words, give me a wide range of people, and they were only too happy to do it. And I had a call with all but one of the folks, because I think it was just an issue with, schedules. When people have been given the good fortune to us of having lots of lead time, we literally have no excuse not to, so if we're booked a year in advance, 6 months in advance, 2 months in advance, surely there's some time to connect with people who will be in that audience. And a fun thing that I learned by having that experience, that most recent one with $1 Million Roundtable, is I connected so deeply, so easily with one of the gentlemen. And there's a demo piece to this particular keynote that they picked. I said, I want to make a bold request. Would you be willing to be my partner in this demo? And he said, I guess so. Can you tell me what it is? So I literally that was part of the process, is part of my preparation for myself was, how am I going to do that demo? Will it be spontaneous? Will I plan it? And it happened out of those planning calls. So don't underestimate the fact that these planning calls, it may seem like additional time in your calendar. However, maybe it's taking other time out of the calendar that would happen closer to the event.
Lovely. I love that. Does your preparation change based on the client or fees?
If I choose to take a lower fee, that's on me. It's not on the client. So the preparation is indicative of how experienced I am, how high stakes the client feels this is. If this is a really sticky situation, I want to spend more time, because I want to know, am I speaking for a room full of prisoners? Is something top of mind for them that's going to distract them from this? I mean, are they excited? Are they happy? Who did you have last year? So I can do some research on that. That other speaker. What did they like? What did they not like about past speakers? So I don't see the fee as indicating it. Can I give you an inside scoop though, a little bit between you and I and the listeners? Sure. The biggest factor for how much prep I do is how anxious I feel about it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Here's my rule of thumb, Jane.
Okay.
If I cannot be nervous when they introduce me, cannot. My level of preparation is in direct relation to how comfortable I am to walk on that stage.
Okay, so you know that if you still got like a little you're feeling it in your gut, there's something not quite right. Hey, can we schedule one more call right before? Or can I meet with you right before? Or whatever.
Yes.
I love that. That's, so intuitive that you know yourself that well that I need more. Something.
Yes.
And Joe had mentioned this, Joe Calloway once, that you do not want to be walking onto a stage not knowing that in the paper that morning, such and such a company, just announced it was going to lay off a bunch of people. You don't want to be walking in blindly. Maybe this is another master's tip. Maybe you set up a Google alert for that company or their stock symbol so that you know the morning before what you're walking out to if it is high stakes.
Yeah. Well, and related to that, it's why part of the preparation is me going to all the events that I can go to beforehand. The social the night before, go show up early to do my tech check before breakfast, so that at breakfast I could be with people at breakfast. I ask the meeting professional, so what's the buzz? What's, how are things going? And then they'll be, if they're freaking out, they will tell you. If everything's good, say, yeah, actually it's been landing really well. If there's other speakers there, you can chat with them. So the preparation continues right up until the minute you take the stage, and your preparation continues as you're looking out on the stage and you're thinking, okay, of the 3 options I had for this particular chunk, it seems like this particular thing's not landing. I'm going to shift a little bit and I'm going to test that out. So when again, the expertise comes into place here too. You're the expert in your topic. To some extent, you're going to need to be adapting on the fly. And that's okay. That's not because you prepared so much that you have your best guess that likely this is the combination that's going to meet it. Could we get it all, no matter how much preparation? Can you get it 100% right? No. So you have to trust your preparation and your expertise to be able to still be preparing while you're on the stage. And if you have a misstep, the preparation is afterwards, and say, I actually have a resource on this. I'm going to make sure to get that to the meeting professional. Would that be okay, everybody? You can literally say to the audience, I know you need more on this. I'm going to make it happen. And if you have to contact your VA and say, could we please whip up a little lead magnet or resource on such and such? They don't know you don't have it. And it's not dishonest because you're going to make it happen. So your preparation is not done when you leave the stage. You may have to give follow-up resources. Perhaps you want to offer a debriefing call. Do they have everything that they needed? Yeah, you can't get everything in a 1-hour keynote. However, if they needed you to solve this problem and you got really only 50% there, but you were pretty sure you could get 90, and that's really the psychological contract you made. You've got 40% to make up. And I'm not saying that's a second no fee keynote. I just mean there's still something that needs to be done.
Acknowledge it and fix it. Acknowledge it and fix it. Okay, so let's talk about missteps. You wrote a book about failure. What was that book called?
The Flip Side of Failing. Yes.
Failing. We did a podcast on it, by the way. So go back and search Sarah, SARAH in our podcast page, and you will pull up that conversation that we had about failure. But let's talk about it when it comes to research. When was a time when you obviously go above and beyond, but there might have been a time where you felt like, okay, I got to add this to the process. When was the time that you felt like you didn't quite get the mark?
Yeah, I underestimated how much preparation I would need to do to come back post-COVID. My first in-person speaking engagement, I missed the mark so huge. I mean, the mark wasn't even in the room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I thought I was so focused on delivery are my speeches okay? Am I going to stand in the right place? You know, all the things that we were super comfortable with beforehand. What makes a good speaker? I missed the part about being the right speaker for them.
Mm.
So I wanted to get on the call with other people. I said we need to do it. I didn't insist. I didn't say literally, I'm not prepared to speak for you until this happens. I should have insisted. We asked, we didn't demand. We were also like, oh, thank God I'm making money. You know, we didn't get demanding enough. And what ended up happening was not only did they pick the wrong speaker, and if I was the right speaker, they definitely picked the wrong topic. They
Mhm.
definitely did not gauge the energy and ability for people to have fun. They wanted fun, energizing. They wanted the Sarah, this sort of energy. And really they needed this sort of energy. It's all very serious. So it was all a mismatch. And what we learned from that is two things. Number one, people have to absolutely do the questionnaire. It may seem optional. It's not optional. There are literally things there, and we needed to add to that. So that's
Yes.
part of it. Our process needed to be tighter. Number two, if I have never spoken for that industry before, if that company seems really specialized, if they're talking about a really difficult thing, non-negotiably, I have to minimally have a conversation with a high stakes person in that organization, or a variety of people who might have different perspectives. Actually, I prefer a variety of perspectives. And now I will not go onto a stage unless I know that I have spoken and I have a good enough picture that is not a ChatGPT search or a Google search. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, people. Because that situation, and there's been other examples where I wasn't prepared enough and it made me feel more anxious, or I just didn't have the value that I needed to, I wanted to. Look at your failures as tuition, speaking tuition. So because that's the best teacher about what preparation needs to look like.
Tuition towards earning your PhD in speaking. Yes, absolutely. And we've all been there. If you have something that does not line up, knowing also about yourself is really interesting. I just negotiated an event to go and speak to the CAPS audience. That's the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers out in Vancouver. And they wanted me to go on at what would have been 9 p.m. my time. And my body didn't have time to adjust. And I said, you're not going to get the best of me at 9 p.m. You know, I felt a little diva-like asking for it, but I just said, this is kind of what it is. And they said, okay, well, let us move you to the front. And so I think learning what really works for you. I did a podcast, or not a podcast, some sort of teleseminar or something once. Horrible. Couldn't even keep my train of thought because it was 8 or 9 o'clock at night for me. And never again. I recognized that this is not the right time. So maybe you're no good as an after dinner speaker. So you know that about yourself. Get yourself moved to the earlier part of the day. Maybe you know that you need this much preparation. You know, part of your preparation is knowing what's perfect for you and what isn't.
Yeah. And if you don't have time to do the preparation, or if the client is inflexible, no, you have to have the 9 o'clock slot, and you know you're going to be taking that flight, and or the time's super tight. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been delayed in with airline travel. If they're saying, no, you need to have this slot, we need you to open, but you know you're not going to get there until 4 hours beforehand, then maybe you have to say, I would love to speak for you some other time, but I'm just not going to be prepared for you. So preparation is, as you say, it's knowing what doing your best work looks like. It's not being a diva. You literally cannot fulfill your contractual obligations of delivering on the solution that they need at the time that they need it, and leave people better off if you're not at your best. And how many of us go around talking about self-care and, live your best life and intention and, insert speaker buzzword here. And then if we don't, say, I can't speak at 9 o'clock your time, my time, 6 o'clock your time, we're we're like, we walk on to the next stage when we say that, and we know we're frauds. So preparation and standing for it, ironically, is also the next time you don't need to go and deliver that message, you're on message because you have not usurped your own expertise. It's just like, everything comes back to you knowing yourself and knowing your area of expertise so well that even in the planning, even in the micro conversations and decisions, it shows up.
And speaking of, late hours or night or travel nightmares, one of the things we talked about before we hopped on a call was the idea of how appealing local events have become for people in today's world of travel chaos. Local events, it allows you to, maybe have a little more room for negotiation if you choose. Because guess how beautiful it's going to be to sleep in your own bed that night.
Yeah. It's also a more efficient use of your time. So if I could speak, I live in Niagara wine country. If I could speak between Niagara Falls and Toronto 4 times a week, that would be my ideal speaker life. And I just spoke in Texas the week before last. It was 4 days. One client, 4 days.
4 days.
Last week, I was in Owen Sound and northern BC. 2 clients the whole week. So really, when you also do and all 3 of those clients were just so amazing. All of them were repeat business. I just feel so grateful. It's not from a place of lack of gratitude. Yes. The practical reality is I have a cold right now because I had close talkers on the airplane and so many engagements that I committed to while I was there. So I think that part of, again, we're keep using the word preparation in different ways. Part of the, you pack your emergency kit before the snow flies. The same with the speakers. Pack your best insights and your best planning before you're up against the wall. And you're so stretched that you literally have no idea how you're going to get the slide decks done on time and ask the right questions and, do the research, figure out how you need to do it. So, and including possibly where you need to be and negotiate and what your cap is on your energy so that you don't let anybody down, including yourself and the people you love the most. Part of my preparation involves letting my husband know where I'm going to be.
Yes. How do you communicate that to him?
We have a Trello board, and he is now on my Trello speaking logistics board. I had to explain how to use the Trello board multiple times. However, he can find my confirmation of arrangements anytime he wants, or he can tag a member of my team if he needs to know. And he will literally track my airplane in the air and know exactly when I'm landing and to make sure I've gotten there on time. So, it's so many of these things we kind of learn the hard way. We learned the hard way that my husband felt like he didn't know where I was and what was going on. So preparation, let's not forget, is also making sure the people who love you most also know where you are, that you're okay, that you've got this, that they're not worried about you. Like, there's just so many dimensions to a speaker's business that I think we underestimate the stress reduction and the value of you showing up on that stage, knowing my family's okay, my business is okay, my inbox is okay, my next speaking engagement's okay, I've checked in, like everything's got to be okay so that you can be excellent on the stage.
That is so good. I'll put in a plug too for TripIt. So TripIt and TripIt Pro puts all your travel in one app, and you can share it with your spouse. So here are my flight details. I don't know. I'd be curious to know if TripIt has an option just to automatically share every time something is added. You get an itinerary in your in basket, you forward it to plans@tripit.com. And then it immediately shows up, and your hotel and your flight and your ground transportation are all in one place. and now you just share it with your spouse and they know where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing. So put a little plug in. I don't get paid by TripIt, but maybe I should. Maybe they should
Maybe
be.
you should. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I,
that's really great. I'm going to look into that because as the team grows and now we have a travel agent doing the travel and, and she doesn't know to let my husband know. So, I think apps and systems, it's part of the preparation, right? Find the systems.
so easy. It's so easy for the travel agent. Then they just forward the email and you're good to go. I want to put in also a plug. We talked about systems, and we do talk a lot about systems in the Wealthy Speaker 3.0. Tell everybody the latest couple of books that you've written. We talked about the book on failure. What is your best-selling book?
Well, we do a really good job of asking if they would like to make this message last and bulk sales of books. And because most of my talks are my recognition talk, I have a workbook that gives people the practical how-tos of how to keep the recognition going in their workplace, team meetings, or onboarding and so forth. So that workbook that was created in 2016, really as a tool for in training sessions, we're saying to our client, I think this would be really easy. And I have a video on my Instagram of an Oprah moment where we have the sponsors giving out the book. Which by the way, you get a book, and people love that concept of the Oprah moment. And I will say as a side note, I'm getting, unless the client says no, every single event, I hire a videographer and we get it edited. There's minimum of 2, sometimes 3 or 4 social media clips that come out of every single speech. If you want to show that you're busy and that you're good on the stage, you need to show people you're busy and good on the stage. So back to the books. So that's one. I have a brand new book as of last week that's out. It's a second book in the ROCKSTAR series. And it is for women leaders because I speak for a lot of female dominated industries and so I feel, and as a fellow woman, I feel really passionate about.
What's the title? Do tell.
It's called ROCKSTAR, Magnify Your Greatness in Times of Change for Female Leaders. So I wrote one for healthcare leaders at the beginning of COVID. So just instead of for female leaders, for healthcare leaders. And ROCKSTAR is still the brand. Recognize, organize, communicate, kindness. So that's my brand. If you practice those, you get star results: satisfaction, teamwork, achievement, and retention, which is what people ask for when they hire me. So I'm going to teach you how to be the rock to other people and rock as a leader so you get the star results. So it's, it's the way the acronym itself is part of the what problem do you solve? What solution could they hire you to offer?
So good.
Yeah. So those are a few.
Good. I love how much clarity you have. And this is an evolution. You've come to this place where it's just all about this one thing. And it's so good. If people want to get in touch with you and reach out, Sarah, how should they do that?
I would love to hang out with you on LinkedIn. Of course, that's the place where almost all of my professional activity is happening. You can also join me at greatnessmagnified.com. Depending on when you are watching this, listening to this, you will see a new demo video by Mr. Chris West of Video Narrative, which you've heard him many times. I can't wait for that to be released. Awesome. And of course, I'm everywhere on social except the new X. Wasn't feeling the love for Twitter, and now it just seems like too much work. So,
I've been done with them for a long time. Sarah with an H, McVanel is McVanel. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I think everybody is going to be thinking about, okay, what can I add to my preparation process in order to book bigger stages, get those higher fees, and really get those high stakes events. Thank you so much for being with us, Sarah. I really appreciate it. And with that, we'll say, see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.